Alright, I want to do another video. This one is going to be again about the black people who are over 75% black. As you can see in my slide, how many of the people are over 75% black, while, some of the black people who are dark skinned are much under 75% black. You can see by the First Lady how her ancestry is clearly 75% black, and people will swear up and down how mixed she is, even though she makes a 75% mark range. And you can also see in the next slide how the lady who is 59% African is seen as, a black woman, that she has a black woman's image, yet she's a mixed race woman. Just off of skin tone, you can be black, even though Indians, as this lady is part Indian, mixed race people, Asians, and many other races of people are mixed, yet, or not black, and they're still somehow black. Most people who aren't even black are black. These people. Very backwards. And then you can see again another light-skinned black woman who is over the 75% African mark. So she's black, much lighter than the lady right next to her. And still, people have this crazy idea that that woman and the woman right after her, who is 92% black, are not black women. Yet, the dark-skinned mixed woman who is 59% black is a black woman, even though the full black woman who is like 92% black is not a black woman, based off of skin tone. Like, this ignorance just never ends. It really doesn't. And it's like coming up with these kinds of falsehoods on how a blackness is basically just a trait of whether your skin is dark enough is just completely false. And I feel like a lot of people just are stuck in ignorance, basically. Ignorance in so many levels. And, I think that's a main problem with what causes people to be so insecure and upset at being darker than someone, yet being less black than them. And I wanted to add an example of this because some people don't really pay much attention to it. But I feel this is a good example of people who are darker skinned but mixed and very insecure. Very insecure. There's this lady named Tokyo. I know her name is Tokyo. She's an overweight black woman named Tokyo. I can look it up real quick. I think it's Tokyo. I forget. Her name's Tokyo, right? But I know she's like black and Latina. Yeah, I think her name is Tokyo Vanity, I think. And she's like black and Colombian. And she would always say really racist things to lighter-skinned black women about their hair type and things of that nature because she's very insecure about being mixed and being darker skinned. And, people will try to use the narrative that such a person like that is a dark skinned black woman and that she speaks for black women. And, the lighter skinned women are just weird, mixed women who have sorry about that, but I thought someone was knocking at the door. Anyway, um, yeah, but they think that the lighter skinned black women are not really black women, even though they are black women. And many of the time she would be attacking them for their black features. And it's like this often, where like a lot of black American people who are actually lighter skinned will be attacked by foreign, mixed, dark skinned people because they are, you know, they have this insecurity with themselves about being darker skinned. And they have these insecurities about not being fully black and thinking that they should be lighter skinned. And then it makes them really uncomfortable when a lighter skinned person is just black and they have actual black features, different features. Obviously, there are different features that are African features. I consider all features like different features. Like if you have 3B hair, to me that's an African feature. You have 4C hair, that's an African feature. Like African features range and they're very different. But what I'm talking about in this case is people who specifically attack lighter skinned people for having, black features and things of that nature because of the fact that they are black people. And I mean, they do it under the guise and the expectation that these people are basically, not real, black people and that they can basically attack their features because that's how it happens among a lot of people. If you have darker skin, they almost act like they have a power over you, that they can actually scrutinize your black features because you are, someone who is lighter skinned, even though you're a black person yourself. And this is kind of like a type of thing, I think, because the default is that darker skinned black people are black by default, just by their skin tone. When this here shows skin tone doesn't define your race. Skin tone never defined your race. And race was never meant for that because that's why Indian people and Asian people, Middle Eastern people can be as dark as black people, but at the same time, it's never been in society where anyone was oppressed specifically for having darker skin and put in the same category of black people. It's never been that way. It's always been where, if you are a black person, therefore you were oppressed because you were a black person. I'm just saying in our history. It was never because of someone's skin tone. So this new thing with darker skinned black people acting like they get the brunt of, racism and, um, insensitive racial remarks and things of that nature is really bullshit to me because it's like in reality it's not true because one, most people of other races don't even notice the difference. Two, like I say, blackness was never defined off of our skin tone. You can look at many of these people and you can see they're black. It has nothing to do with their skin tone. They're just black people. You you can tell many of the African people that I posted one African woman, and you can see her and how it has nothing to do with her skin tone that you know she's black. So to me, I'm like, blackness and skin tone have nothing to do with each other. Dark skinned black people in America trying to assert that they are more black than other black people is ignorance. It's just a power trip. And, in our race, we've had it for so long where these people would try and assert their dominance in our race, even though they're a minority, because they would act like they were the standard off of ignorance because they didn't understand that African people vary in phenotype. Also, you know, a major thing is that a lot of the time people gave in, and it's also because of it's a two-pronged thing. So like I said, the dark skinned people asserting their dominance by saying that they are the standard, but then also it's also been that people who are lighter skinned have always been a minority in the black race. Even in Africa, you can see that there are still a lot of brown skinned black people as opposed to lighter skinned black people. And I say, for whatever reason it seems like brown skinned black people, especially the darker brown skinned people. I'm saying the chocolate brown skinned people basically. Many of them really do strongly identify with the dark skinned black people. And so they reinforce the idea that dark skin is the standard, basically, and that that's what is, when in reality, they're not. And when in reality, they're not more black than anybody else. In fact, many of the time, they're much less black. As I said in the previous video, if you look at many Africans in Africa who are darker skinned, you will see they look so much different than black people in America who are dark skinned. So if we were saying that they originated from those people specifically, it would make a lot of sense why you keep seeing in my slide that they can hardly get over 3/4 black. And many of them are 59, 65, 63% black. So they're not even 2/3 black, many of them. And they mean to say that dark skin makes them black? How? How exactly does it make you black? It just makes you dark, sweetie, not black. You going around trying to tell other people that they are not black, like you have some ownership over blackness or you have some authority to say who's more black than who when you can hardly get over 60% black. And sometimes you don't even get to 60% black. It's just total ignorance. It's total ignorance, sweetie. And I mean, like, you should be just if you want to call yourself black, I'm not one to say someone's not black. I believe I'm a believer of the idea that mixed people are black in their own way as well. So I'm not one to say, excuse me, that they're not black, but I'm saying this. If you're going to say somebody who is 90% black is not black, while you yourself can't even reach 70% black, then you need to not talk on blackness because obviously you've just asserted that you're not a black person either. So when you assert that someone else who is basically fully black is not black, you basically cut yourself out of being black. So you have to understand and know the facts and reality of the situation and not play games and pretend it's a color game when in reality non-black people are darker than you. So what kind of game is this? It's a nonsensical game when you're saying, oh, the darkest person is the most black. The darkest person is darker than you. They're still like South Asian Indian people, and they're still much darker than you. And you mean to tell me they are more black than you? I wouldn't be shocked if someone like you would say that, since, I mean, you can't even reach 70% black. Maybe you do think you're as black as them. But, I mean, for a perspective of someone who is actually like the lighter skinned black people who are over like 80% black, they're over 75% black. And you mean to tell me that you're saying that these people are less black than you? By what? By what math? Because you must be counting backwards. Because obviously, if you count forward, you would see you're less black than these light skinned black people. And that's just the truth. Stop living in fantasy just because you want to explain away why you're dark skinned. Like I said, dark skin isn't a bad thing. Dark skin doesn't have to be connected to blackness to be good. Dark skin doesn't have to reaffirm your identity. Dark skin can reaffirm your beauty, though. Dark skin can enhance your beauty, enhance your phenotype. It can make you as gorgeous as you are and as beautiful as you are. But trying to act like other black people aren't black is just displacing real black people from their black identity simply because you're having an identity crisis and having an issue with your own complexion that you probably need therapy for. So, I mean, I just don't really appreciate when people talk in nonsense and try to pretend that lighter skinned black people aren't black, or that there is no such thing as light skinned black people, and not really recognize that there is such a thing as being a dark skinned black person. I mean, a dark skinned mixed person and a light skinned black person. These are the two identities that colorism crybabies hate to acknowledge. They really do. They hate acknowledging these identities because it takes away from their own argument on dark skin, making them feel a certain way. It it's just the same thing as, like I said, people who are darker skinned who aren't even black, like Indian people. If you bring them up, they have a hard time explaining how colorism exists. Because it's like, if you're saying that you are treated less than because you are darker skinned, because you're perceived as more black than other people, then how come dark skinned Indians don't get the same hate in America? Like, if skin tone was really a thing where people were treated in a racist manner based off of their skin tone, then Indian people would be treated worse than light skinned black people. It's not like that. Indians aren't even treated, they're not even treated poorly, I don't think, off of their skin tone. I really don't think so. Not in America. I think generally, um, in their country they can be, yeah. But in our country, I think it's more so seen like they're Indian people. They're just put in the same category, I think. And if you pay attention to that, it lets you know that it's about features, it's about your racial background. That really defines how you're treated in America, not your skin tone. That's how you know colorism doesn't really exist. Because if it did exist, dark people would get the racism across the board. You can't say that you're getting treated more like you're, a darker skinned black person and more like you're more more black than other people, just off of a skin tone. It just doesn't work that way because this country is very multicultural. So we don't just have black people. We have Indians, we have Asians, we have Middle Eastern people, we have Hispanic people, we have white people, black people. We have basically any race you name it, we have it here, in this country. It's a melting pot. And very proud of that. But that's how you know colorism doesn't exist. That's how you know that when people assert, that their experience as a darker skinned black person is just basically bullshit. Because in reality, many of you darker skinned people aren't even black. So what are you talking about a dark skinned black experience when you're not even biologically black? You're a mixed person. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say. I'm just tired of the ignorance and the bullshit, and I just wish people would actually deal in reality. There are mixed people who are dark skinned, as I am showing, and there are light skinned black people who are over 75% or 75% black. So, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and bye. I wanted to add also that I also added some photos of, like, basically, I guess you could say, brown skinned girls, kind of. That extent, but not completely. But yeah, I added some brown skinned girls in there as well, but they're more like, I would consider them like maybe like light brown, medium, light brown, somewhere around there. But yeah, I did add a few because last time I really didn't add any that were light brown. So there you go. Enjoy the video. I have a bit more to say in my next segment, so enjoy.